Good morning and welcome to the Standing Committee meeting for Wednesday, June 9th, 2021. Council will continue to meet virtually until further notice. Meetings can now be viewed live on the City channel and live streamed on YouTube. Our first order of business is public comment, and I would like to remind all speakers that the rules of council state that comments are limited to matters of concern, official action, or deliberation, which are or may be before City Council, and profanity will not be permitted. When you are announced, please provide your name and neighborhood for the record, and you will then be given 3 minutes to speak. Our first speaker of the day is Aikuhana Hamakina. You're currently on mute. So let's go to our second speaker and see if we can come back. Our second speaker is Kim Wilkes.
Yes, I was liking to comment. My name is Kim Wilkes. I'm from Polish Hill. I'd like to comment on the area that I'm in, how it's allowed to go down to blight. I have 1, 2, 3, possibly 4 abandoned properties, all overgrown. I have people drifting in from other neighborhoods, kicking in doors and hanging out in these properties, and it's unsafe for me, and I don't feel it's fair that the city is not condemning these, that most of them are condemned, but they're not tearing these buildings down. All I keep getting is, oh, there's no money, but I'm paying my taxes. These properties are delinquent in taxes. The one guy pretended that he was dead to keep from paying his back taxes and taking care of his property. His property is overgrown, constantly been in court for being neglected and overgrown, and it's a danger. There's all kind of animals living in this abandoned garage. His property's overgrown. It's condemned. He's delinquent on his property taxes. This is not his primary residence, but nothing is being done. Just Sunday, I was on the street looking around the neighborhood, and here comes 2 young males down in golf dress, and they went up to the abandoned property, pretended to have a key when there's no lock on the door, and then I seen them kick the bottom of the door when they couldn't get in, and then promptly went on to rustling through the mailbox, and then went around the side of the abandoned property, which has weeds 10 feet high on it, and attempted to go to the back door, which is kicked in. And this is just unacceptable. It's unacceptable. This is 2021. Where is the money? Why aren't these buildings being condemned and tore down? Why was these people allowed to keep their property that is not their primary residence in these types of conditions, endangering the residents, the tax-paying residents who live in the neighborhood? What's going on here? Why aren't we tearing these buildings down and demanding that these people, they did a clean and lean on this one property, and it's still overgrown the next week. The weeds are getting up 5 feet high. And you can't keep asking the city to come take care of the property. The owner is deliberately delinquent. What are you going to do about it? You should tear this down and bill him for the demolition. This is not his primary residence. None of these residents are primary residents. These landlords and these people who own these properties are delinquent. Yet when I tried to purchase property, I was told, no, these properties aren't for sale, and they put the property in the Greenway. My family's been in this neighborhood since 1901. 1901. 5 members of my family served in the military. My one brother was highly decorated, Army, Airborne Army Ranger, Special Forces, Seek and Destroy, highly decorated. And he had to leave here and go to Memphis in order to get a job and to get a home. And this is not right. This is not right, and something should be done. Also,
Thank you. Our next speaker is Aikuhana Hamakina. I do see her with us, but for whatever reason, she's still on mute. Is it *6 you have to enter sometimes?
Yes, and she may not be near her phone. I see her on mute as well, but I'm not sure what's going on.
Akuhana, if you hit *6, you may be able to join us. If not, we'll proceed and then come back at the end of the meeting if you stay on. If she doesn't unmute, maybe in the next 30 seconds. Okay. Not sure why this morning, but let's proceed to our standing committee's agenda. We will certainly come back to her if she remains on at the end of the meeting. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Reverend Burgess, Mr. Coghill, Ms. Gross,
Here. Excuse me.
Mr. Kraus,
Here.
Mr. O'Connor,
Here.
Mrs. Kell Smith, Mrs. Strasburger,
Here.
Mr. Wilson,
Here.
Mr. Lavelle, Chair.
Here.
6 members present.
Thank you. Our first committee of the day is Finance and Law, which is chaired by myself. One supplemental paper is Bill 1588.
Bill 1588, resolution transferring a total of $380,000 within the 2021 operating budget from the Department of Public Works to the Department of Parks and Recreation for the purpose of increasing pay for lifeguards and reopening as many pools as possible for the 2021 season.
Motion to approve?
Second, with just brief
With
discussion, please.
Absolutely. Yes, please.
Yeah, Councilwoman.
Thank you. Councilwoman Smith and I kind of hurriedly put this one together, I'll admit, after seeing the announcement that we all saw that only a limited number of pools would be opening citywide. And that a number of pools, I think in each of our districts, would not be opening due to the lack of lifeguards.
Mhm.
We've seen this across the county since I first spoke to Director Chapman and tried to see if we could add some dollars to the budget for lifeguards to increase pay. You might have seen in the news that Allegheny County pools actually did the same thing, so that county parks were having trouble hiring lifeguards and increased pay scales to $15 an hour, I believe. I think Dormont Borough did the same thing, possibly Mount Lebanon, and I might have missed a few because I don't have the media in front of me. We're all just this is like an ongoing conversation, so I'm not sure if it actually has worked for them. I think maybe it worked for the county, but I'm not sure if the municipalities are actually having success in hiring lifeguards to open their pools. And so I just wanted to give Director Chapman a chance to react to this. We really haven't thought all the way through it. I got some feedback from him yesterday by email. We went back and forth a couple of times. And I just wanted to let him kind of give his thoughts and see if this is something that might work for the city of Pittsburgh to at least open one more pool. I would be happy with one more pool opened. Director.
Good morning, Councilwoman. Good morning, Council Ross Chapman, Director of Parks and Recreation. Councilwoman Gross, Council President, thanks for the consideration. It's the support, the concern is really appreciated, not just by me, but by the staff, of course. So I guess to speak to what other municipalities in the county are doing or struggling with, I think Dormont has had limited success. They are paying, I think, around $15 an hour. I think they're also now offering a bonus. I don't know if it's end of year bonus or sign up bonus, maybe up to $500. But I also believe that they pushed their opening date back for the pools by a week at least. The county, some information, I think they had 2 of their 4 pools opened over the weekend. There were a number of incidents there, respective to just the number of people that showed up. So kind of an issue, but they're still, even though they pay, I believe, $14 to $16 an hour, somewhere in that range, they're still struggling to get to a safe number to facilitate the operation of all of their pools. I don't think they're there yet, but they might be close. I'm not sure. As you mentioned, this is a national trend, and it's not just lifeguards, it's just everyone. I mean, we're having issues recruiting part-time staff, seasonal staff, and other program areas. And it doesn't just point to wages. So the consideration is appreciated. I feel it's a little late, and we're working on kind of a visual document. The aquatics team and assistant directors were trying to put something together. I'll share it with you all if you'd like to see it. It's a visual representation of the kind of the process that the team has to move through. The aquatics team of 4 full-time individuals that usually pull this off for 18 pools somehow. I don't know how they do that. This year is completely different. I think COVID and closures last year, COVID concerns this year have some people still really tentative. We typically have dozens, I don't know how many, I want to say up to maybe perhaps 40 or 50 returning head guards or senior guards, kind of regional guards that help to manage all of these pools. They also manage some of the spray parks. Currently, we don't have enough spray park attendants. We don't have enough pool cashiers. We don't have enough site monitors for a food program. And structurally, this gets a little complicated because a general fund monetary mechanism to support the possibility of opening additional pools, even if one, as you said, Councilwoman, which everyone is all for. If we could open up 18, we'd open up 18. We know that that's what the city needs. That's what we want to do. It's impossible for me to explain all the reasons why this isn't happening, but it's not happening. But respective to general fund monies, 2 of the pools that we have open, planned to open this on Monday, are RAD funded pools. Shenley and Highland, we pay that out of a RAD trust fund. So the monies that we have that would be appropriated in our general fund couldn't facilitate increases for those RAD lifeguards, RAD pool cashiers, and so forth and so on. Across the spectrum of the department, when I look at what other seasonal hires make, if you look at our food program trust fund, we're paying around $9 an hour, a little under that. So you apply the equity lens to what that might look like to give just lifeguards in a general fund pot an increase, which they deserve. That's a very responsible position. And there's an argument to be made too, I guess, that for a first-year guard, a young person that is for the first time gone through 4 weeks of training, has gotten certified. We're paying for certification. We're trying to get bus passes for these kids. We're doing everything we can to recruit. That's a pretty significant responsibility. So you have to consider that. But you also have to consider how we're underpaying other individuals. And I would think it would only be fair that we map entry-level positions to what we're paying our part-time staff, which is $12.
Great. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
The position that you talked about in food that's only making $9 an hour, is that also in the seasonal budget section?
That's in the food programs trust fund. It's a seasonal section.
That's the source of funds. So it's not in that same page of the budget that I was looking at? Okay.
No, ma'am. That would be in one of our, we have seven different funds, right?
Sure.
Operating, Mellon, Frick, Rad, Shenley.
I agree. I mean, I'm a big fan of the food distribution work that you're doing. We've talked about that before. I've talked about that at your budget hearing publicly, and I agree. And if we could afford to make those positions more equitable by pay, I would also be supportive of that. Especially when I think I heard you say that it was spray park attendants and kind of the ticket attendants and also some food positions that you were having trouble hiring for summer.
Yeah, yes, ma'am, that's correct. And it's, so the thought is, and what we already have the capacity to do, well, let me speak to this maybe first. Aside from the entry level first year lifeguard, which has been budgeted at 1077, of course, there were no changes in that from 2020. We're actually paying those we're paying those individuals 11.30 an hour. We have that ability to do that without having 18 pools open, even though we took a 19% cut in our general fund this year, as most departments did. The upper tier guards, head guard, first year head guard, regional guard, we're paying between 14 and 15.76 or something like that per hour. That's been what we've been advertising since we started the recruitment effort. That's really not new. That's about a quarter to a third of the number of lifeguards that we have in our queue right now. So we're already paying a fair portion of these individuals that kind of competitive rate that others are paying as well in other municipalities, or perhaps Kennywood, or these other organizations and entities for similar positions or the same position. We have the capacity currently in the budget, my budget, to facilitate an increase for those first year guards to 1275. That's about an 18.4% increase from the budgeted amount of 1077 that appears in the 2020 operating budget book. If we apply 18.4% to other positions that fall below that level, the pool aide cashiers, the spray park attendants, we give them a more competitive rate. They're not up to 1275, but we give them more than $8 or $9 an hour, whatever we currently have structured. We could afford to do that in the RAD budget for those like positions, for those RAD pools. It gets a little more complicated when we get outside of the RAD budget and we start to look at the food program trust fund, or the RAD park trust fund that might hit the Shenley ice rink and some of the other things. But we already have the means to do that, and talking with the budget department and ongoing conversations with my own team and the aquatics team, we feel that to be equitable. We feel that that would help with retention to a degree, and we feel that to be a little bit more in line with a long-term plan for 2022 to 2027 for this to be sustainable. So part of the goal for me, for all of us, is to okay, if we present something now, how do we build this into the budget that can create that platform of equity across all program areas within the department? And I can't speak for other departments. I don't know, what their part-time positions are at, but I just wanted to reiterate that we're already in that competitive range for some of our experienced guards. The kids that we see oftentimes they're just inexperienced. They're just new kids looking for a summer job, and it takes quite a bit of training to get them through the whole process and comfortable that they can perform a rescue. So, we're doing what we can. I think we're always in a position where we're kind of backfilling positions as some of the kids drop off. Maybe they find a better paying job. Maybe they go on summer vacations and they don't return. So that training process is always part of the summer program that the staff has to do, and it's not easy to do once they're operating pools. So the challenge is on kind of a shoestring staff. How do we move to add additional pools? I don't think 1 or 2 would be extremely cumbersome, but it's all about how can we time the recruitment, the training, the certification to get them ready, which pools those additional pools might be, how does that impact public works, et cetera, et cetera. So
I'm going to add in, I bet this is, I can hear how complex it is. You will need to make sure that you are staffed out fully at the administrative level and managerial level, clearly, and the supervisory level. So we have a variety of obstacles, right? We know that just in the workforce, right, in the labor pool, whatever words we want to use, that our citizens who are eligible to apply for these jobs may have their own barriers. It may not only be wages, right? Wages might help. We are seeing some evidence from other places that wages help, but maybe they have babysitting or childcare responsibilities that they didn't have in other summers because of their family dynamics, and people are in, maybe they have other caregiving responsibilities. Maybe, as you said, there's still some barrier with the fact that we're still in a global pandemic. Although some teams are starting to get vaccinated, right? And then we have some barriers for our internally how to ramp up, even if we did get new hires moving forward. But you also have an equity and fairness problem within our own current city pay scales, right? I heard you say that, and I'm also interested and concerned about that. And I would be happy if our budget office would help us kind of cost that out and see what that is. I just want to remind us all, though, that yes, we are still in this global pandemic, and we're trying to weigh these barriers and how much effort can we, put in, and can we help reduce some of those barriers, because our citizens have been living through this pandemic as well, and they really need this outdoor recreation. And we had, we all know, I just wanted to say for the record, we had all of our pools closed last year. Our citizens have all been kind of either essential workers that have been working very hard in the last 14 months outside of their homes, or remote working inside their homes. Kids a lot of them have been remote schooling and stuck in the house for most of this time. Everybody is really looking forward to outdoor time now that the state restrictions have been lifted so that we're allowed to kind of be outside together. And it's just discouraging, and people are very, very, very disappointed that their park or their spray park or the pool that they can get to most easily is not opening, right? So I see that when you, in the kind of pool openings, I think you might have managed to open a pool in each council district. Is that
Yes.
true? Wonderful. So I appreciate that. And then you pointed out that 2 of those pools, very large capacity ones, right? Shenley and Highland. Also it was helpful because you had a separate pot of money for that one. Source of funds is the regional asset district funds that are funded by the county sales tax. And so I appreciate that there are these kind of barriers at different levels, but I would feel badly if we didn't try something. Maybe it's a spray park. Maybe it's a couple spray parks instead of lifeguards. If there's still something, and I know that you're probably already very full with your schedule, realizing that we are in June. And, if we'd had this conversation in April, this would have been a lot easier for everyone. But I'll stop there and see if Councilwoman Smith also wants to chime in. She had some thoughts when we were chatting over the last couple of days, but I'm not seeing her on my screen. 9 o'clock, she's still here?
She's in.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll just give it back to the chair. So I didn't mean to be trying to chair the meeting, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you. I am on.
President Smith?
Thank you. I just want to say real quickly, I was not on because I was in the audience, but I do think that we should be trying something, Councilwoman Gross, to open these pools. I think that even if we do one more, north, south, east, west, central, or in different locations, I have a district where kids cannot access, one neighborhood near them sometimes, especially when one is so separated as some of our districts are. Mount Washington and Ferrywood are so far apart. I can't imagine kids from Ferrywood being able to get to Mount Washington. And honestly, I also think we should be offering shuttles to some of these pools, because if we're going to only open one pool in each district, and we don't even have one in each district, it's 8 pools, there's 9 districts. So somebody's without one and somebody has more than one. So I think that the conversation has to be, how can we make sure that we're serving the residents? How can we make sure that we're getting kids to the pools in the summer? Because if we're not getting them to the pools, we're going to be getting a lot of other calls. Because kids that are sitting idle are more apt to, we all know, to potentially get into some difficult situations. And not all kids, some kids will volunteer and do great things, but some kids will not have those same opportunities or the same mindset. So what I want to do is make sure that we at least, so if director can at least talk to us maybe about with a reduced amount of money, maybe not the exact amount that we're talking about here, but if we could do, what would it take to get a few more pools open? And can we work with the universities or other people, private companies that have lifeguards to get some lifeguards into some of our pools, to get our pools up and running? And what would it take to get the pools filled and up? How long is that process? Director Sion?
Good morning, Council President. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, it all comes down to our ability to recruit lifeguards. So
Right.
the recruitment effort's been going on since January.
Could we partner with other people to get lifeguards, just
Uh,
to get the pools open? Could we partner with other people? Could we
I
partner?
think our outreach has been to the public schools. It's been the universities, the campaign. HR has been really supportive. We've run radio ads. We've done everything we can, field canvas, and it's been difficult to do because of COVID. So I really can't speak for the timeline to get another pool online from an operational perspective. I would imagine some pools, could be filled and dealt with in a couple weeks. I really don't know, but the challenge becomes operating open pools while trying to ramp up and train first year guards for the opening of a new pool. That can take
What do we
weeks.
need to do this? So what do we need to do to help you? And can we talk to the universities about some of their, or even some private companies? Some of them have pools open in the evening. They might have a lifeguard that wants to do a daytime shift or something. I mean, you could maybe somebody who wants to do an evening shift. I would just think, could we at least have those conversations? Think outside the box. What can we do today to start getting pools open by next week?
I don't know that. I mean, yes, ma'am. We've had so many conversations with so many different entities. A lot of the college kids that have been working remote this year, they're not around. There's no pool to draw from. Excuse the pun. So the team, we HR, we've done outreach in ways that we have never done it in the past. We're kind of at a number that has us barely above or barely at the 8 pool level.
But you were doing that recruiting with making $10 or something an hour, correct?
No, we've been recruiting with a starting rate of $11.30 an hour
If you
up
did it for
to
15 an hour and you started getting maybe some college students, or even the when my kids were young, teachers in the summertime were their lifeguards. So there's a lot of younger teachers. There's a lot of teachers that are older that like to swim. Have you talked to Mark Rodikis, who has all those swimming programs? Maybe he knows of someone. I'm just thinking, I think maybe you, Councilwoman Gross, and I should sit down and talk, have a meeting, and with the chair, Reverend Burgess, and talk about how we can get these pools up and running. This is not okay. I mean, one of our services, we have basic services we have to provide our residents, and one of those things are these activities in the pools. In my area, we don't have a city-run rec center, but as you know, we have a city-owned rec center. We have Ream Rec, we have the Open Door, which is a privately ran community center. We have the Salvation Army, but I have 17 neighborhoods, and not all neighborhoods have access to those places, and not all neighborhoods have swimming pools. But we do have more swimming pools. We have 4 swimming pools, more than other districts. But without the community center, without a spray park yet, I know we're doing one in Short-Tears, but it's not up and running. Without places for kids to get to, I mean, I'm really more worried about. I know that there's a lot of kids in Sheridan and Crafton Heights, but there are also a lot of kids in Westwood. There's a lot of people in the immigrant community. This is the only activity some people know. And I'm just afraid that we're taking this away from them and not doing a whole lot I know you've done a lot of work. I know that we've done a lot of typical things. I'm trying to think, what can we do outside of the box to get these pools open? Or can we even partner with the universities and others that have pools that are open and running to get our kids there with free passes for the summer? Things like that. I'm just trying to think, what can we do to get our kids into pools this summer? I don't care what it is. I want to make sure that we're doing everything and exhausted every possible avenue to make sure that we're getting these pools open or getting kids to swim in the summertime. And especially because it is such a big issue in the city. I mean, a lot of our kids don't know how to swim. So, I mean, not only is it a safety issue because the kids are going to be, a lot of kids are going to be home all summer. I remember a little girl when my kids were young, she would take a baggie filled with pennies, and she'd go to the pool all day while her mother worked. But that was where she was all day. At least and I know that's not the job of lifeguards to be babysitters, but in some ways that's what they are. So that's why they deserve more money too. So I think we expect a lot from them and give a little. So Councilwoman Gross, are you okay if we held for 1 week and we sat down and maybe not even hold, maybe pass a preliminary, and then we sit down and work through it?
Yes,
So,
I'm
I-
open to that, but I think other members maybe have comment.
Yes, please.
Are you finished?
I'm
Council
done.
President?
I'm done. I'm just going to say, I think that whatever we do, we have to push this issue a little bit harder and make sure that we're getting and giving the director all the resources we can to get the polls open and helping however we can. If we all sit down and think outside the box, that's what we need. And we get the polls open, or we get someplace for the kids to go, or we get the county to provide a shuttle like they used to do the Oakland Loop and take the kids to the swimming pools. That's what they used to do back in the day. I mean, maybe if they could do something like that again. To get the kids to the pools, that would be great. I just want to have that conversation of how we're getting kids to pools.
Understood. Thank you. Councilman Kraus?
Thank you. Good morning, Director. How are you?
Fine, Councilman. Thank
Good.
you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for your efforts. I know we had an earlier conversation about the difficulties you're experiencing and in providing lifeguards to have the pools open. And I just want to express my sincere appreciation for all you are doing and in light of a very difficult challenge that you're up against. My questions are more systemic, I guess, maybe to Councilwoman Gross and Smith, if you'll permit, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering out of what line the $380,000 would be coming from the Public Works Department?
Yes, absolutely. So we worked with our council budget office, and they took it from a facilities line that isn't needed until the fall.
Okay.
And then the legislation, if you can see it on your screen, has a section that authorizes the administration to fill that back in.
Okay.
Especially since we'll be reopening the budget between now and then, so dollars can be added to backfill that gap.
So it's forgive me, it's capital dollars we're taking for operating? I don't
No.
understand. It's
No,
not, it's operating for operating.
It is not. It is operating to operating.
Okay, and then I guess my next question would be, if we are unable to use the dollars, whatever amount that is allocated, if we're unable to use the dollars to fill the positions because, as the director said, there's just a lack of a pool to pick from, is there provision in the ordinance to return the money?
Yeah,
I don't know how better to ask that question.
Yeah, right, I believe it. And keep in mind, council will be reopening this budget.
Yeah.
Right, and so we will have that opportunity to do it either way, right? To put funds from somewhere else into the facility funds. I can't imagine all of these funds would be expended, but I wanted to kind of put an amount in that would give us this flexibility so that as we work with the director, we can see which positions need those funds. And again, we have there's plenty of time to move the money back or move money into that line.
Okay, and has anyone reached out to the acting director of Public Works just to have a sense of what Chris might be thinking? Just curious, that's all.
Nope.
Okay. I can't help but want to support the effort. I know how incredibly important the pools are, how incredibly important recreation is, and especially in a summer that is expected to be as hot as what this summer is going to be, and especially after a time when they were closed last year. And we, all of us, are fatigued by being isolated from one another and anxious to be out and about in nice weather to participate and socialize. So I am happy to support. Probably going to reach out, Councilwoman Gross and President Smith, just to have a little more in-depth conversation and to not take the time here right now. This I'm almost fear to go down this road, but I believe it's going to be on us to understand heading into the new year how important it is for us to be competitive in the job market to attract the most talented talent that we can. And I see you looking at me, Councilwoman Gross, and it really does come down to that. It really does across all departments. It comes down to that, and that I think we are really. I think Council or Chairman Daniel, I sent you a text in reference to that. I think we are very much going to be charged with having a very honest discussion about how we, as employers, are able to be competitive in a job market that is increasingly challenged, and making certain that we are able to attract, excuse me, the best and most competent talent. But that I don't want to open that can of worms, and I apologize for even going out there. I'd really like to stay focused on the director's need to be able to provide for lifeguards and for us to be able to provide for recreation this summer. And I will support. I just probably have a couple more questions, but I'll talk with Council Members Gross and our President Smith about how to maybe tighten it up or have a better understanding. But for today, I appreciate the opportunity to speak my piece, and I will vote in the affirmative today.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I've got Councilwoman Strasburger, then Councilman Burgess.
Just I can't find the legislation. Where's it at? I can't find where it's at. That's all.
All right.
The bill. I'm just asking what the bill we're talking about is.
1588. It's the very first bill.
This
And
is
I'll resend it.
first-
if you need
First
Oh,
bill,
okay.
first bill under finance and law. Councilwoman Strasburger.
I'll hold my comments. They were tangential, so I won't go down that road.
So I do have one. Just one thing. I'm not against this. I just think I caution us to do this. This is what I think we should not do. We shouldn't piecemeal opening the budget. We should open the budget, make whatever changes we want to make at one time. I think starting to go down this road of piecemealing the budget and moving line items is a bad idea. I'm not incredibly hostile. I mean, this is okay, but if we're going to do, even if I support this, I won't support anything else like this, because I think this is a bad idea. We should do the budget, open it up, make the changes as a whole, because everything has an impact, right? If we move money from one place, it has an impact. Why not sit down and figure it all out rather than go down this road 4 or 5 times trying to add positions or add this or add that? That's all. That's my only concern.
Thank you. Councilman Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Director Chapman. It was good speaking with you the other day. I wanted to just ask what the 380,000 gets us. So in terms of the 80 lifeguards we have right now, if wages were increased for them, and then also I see on the legislation there's other, possible positions like pool attendants that could have wage increases. What, over the course of the summer, just, on the base, if those wages are increased, what's left?
That's a good question, Councilman. I could go through it all, but I have a number of scenarios: 8 pools, 10 pools, current rates, increased rates, 21% increases. There's a myriad of different kind of proposals that we looked at as to how we can do this with our existing funds. I think we have budgeted for the aquatics seasonal everything, maybe $800 and some thousand, down a little bit from last year due to the necessary cuts. As I mentioned before, I think that the $380,000 that could be supplemented or added into our general fund line item to support seasonal hires, it could be helpful. But I think that given how little we've spent this year because of COVID, given that where we're at with our scenario with pools and spray parks, all the spray parks are open, but we've lost a couple spray parks just this week. So we don't have them fully staffed yet. We may have enough money in our current budget to facilitate that $12.75 for first year guards and the rates that we're already paying, even if we were to open up 10 or 12 pools. The 380 may not be necessary to help us get there to that number. So again, if you start to look at what that dollar amount could do, sure, adding it into could bolster programs. It could bolster wages for staff, but how do we equitably apply it to part-time staff in the general fund, part-time staff who are really dedicated in the senior program arena? That's a trust fund. How do we do it across the board, and how do we do it that's in a sustainable way, not just this year? So when I think about the structure of bonuses and those kinds of things, that's great. But I feel as though we should offer them to all the positions that we're trying to fill, part-time or seasonal. It just doesn't seem like it's the right approach to offer it to one group of individuals and not to others. There are some positions part-time for community recreation staff, and just as a FYI, just for your awareness, Monday, whatever that is, the 14th, that kicks off not only the opening of the pools, it kicks off our summer food service program, which will remain a grab and go structure. We might have 40, 50 sites. It starts our first cohort of summer camps for kids that will commence at 5 or 6 of our rec centers. It's kind of a COVID weird hybrid thing that we're putting on this year. Our camps filled up in a matter of hours, on-site registration. So summertime is kicking off for us in a familiar but a very unfamiliar way. Okay. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, my question was just tailored more. Maybe it's for Councilwoman Gross. Like whenever this was being drawn up, was there like a goal in mind of like, after we pay the 80 lifeguards we have, their wages would increase? I imagine their wages would increase with new hires. And was there a goal of like this would fund 15 lifeguards and that would open like another pool? Just trying to understand.
Yeah, it wasn't really just calculated out on one pool. It was kind of like, we're not going to be able to open all of them, so we don't need to increase wages to the full goal, unfortunately, right? Wish that we could, but we're just out of time. It's just not feasibly going to happen. So it was kind of like roughly like, well, if the half of the open positions, where the wages were increased, and like you said, the current positions were increased, but not just for lifeguards. So that's a little misleading. And I actually do have an amendment that corrects that, but that's not ready for today because we're all kind of processing this together. But what that I heard Director Chapman say in the last, this week is that it's not just lifeguards, but those spray park attendants, the kind of food, other attendants, spray workers, even supervisors. And so I wanted us to not lock in on just that one part-time role.
Yeah, because it would be good to incorporate. I see the list here: first year, senior, assistant, head guard, or lifeguard, and then pool aide.
We'll be amending that, I think.
Yeah,
because the amendment already kind of added in other positions, but like I said, I don't think we're ready to do that amendment today.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the what we've taken apart. My family's been taken apart in the city parks, and just even like art cart, all those things. I'm not sure what's going on with that and how that's going. Like we want to lose that as well. I don't want to lose any pools either, but I'm also just thinking like, could this be at the discretion of Director Chapman to, see what's the best for the city in terms of if he had a choice of where to increase wages to pull people in.
Councilman, I can add something here. Maybe it might be a little helpful. Currently, we think we have around 15 senior head guards. Now, again, those are folks that we're paying more than, that entry level wage. They're around 14.75 or thereabouts per hour. That's if you work out the hours, each employee over the average of the summer, considering a pool might be opened into or through Labor Day, it's about 100 grand. 99,289. That's what that'll get you at that 14.75 rate. And absolutely for certain, I will push hard to make sure that other program areas and other seasonal staff, the art card and everywhere else, would be so equitably treated. We're going to take them up 18.4%, whatever we're going to do. I would try to work with our existing budget to do that first. If there's supplemental monies made available and we need to tap into those to help bolster summer programming without a extreme impact to public works or wherever additional monies might come from, we could look to do that. So it's already kind of in motion that we start to consider general fund positions that are seasonal and in a way that we can start to work on improving the pay scale for them. We couldn't get them all to 1275. Don't even know if it's meritable to consider that. I mean, yes, it is for sure to give people a living wage. Everybody starts at $15 an hour in some ideal scenario. It's just not feasible. It's just not doable in the short term and maybe the long term, but we can do more with our existing pool of funds, and we intend to. Part of what we've seen though, and I'll be quiet, is that even at the 1275 hour per rate for part-time employees, regardless of the program area, if you go into the HR's NeoGov system, you'll see thousands of views, thousands of clicks on some of these positions, and you might have a half dozen applications. So people are looking at the jobs. The wage might be turning them off. City residency might be turning off. There's a myriad of reasons. If we pay more, to Councilman Krause's and everyone's opinion, that we'll attract more candidates, we'll increase our retention, we'll improve the workforce. It has to happen, in my opinion, more globally. There has to be kind of a universal consideration for this, and one that is sustainable beyond just this summer. So we are going to do more. We are going to activate the art cart as much as we can. And we're going to try to expend monies based on the resources that we have available to us. If the budget book reopens, if there's a reallocation of previously held back funds or lost funds due to COVID, we will work with those monies and do what we can.
Okay, one last question. I just want to, so I realized that, there's a lot of prep going into the pool season before the pool's open, which is the people that you have, or I'm not sure how many, but they're the ones that get these lifeguards certified. And if we do have an increase of, interest because of the rates being increased, will there be an opportunity for those individuals to maybe seek overtime pay or have some sort of incentive to really put in that extra work? Because they're going to have to put in, it's not like we're hiring more people to train lifeguards. Right? Or maybe you will. I mean, that might be a really, executive job, but, there's going to be someone that's got to train them to do the job.
Correct, Councilman. Yeah, we're already paying them overtime. We're already giving them comp time. This is an annual process for Shelley and our team. Come May, I think when the training starts, they're hitting it hard, and of course we're going to compensate them, and they're working evenings, they're working Sundays, they're cleaning restrooms. Our guards have to do all that. We don't have a division. We don't have a labor force that goes out and cleans the bathrooms. That's a problem. That's a problem. We need to address that somehow universally and figure that out. And I'm not the only one that thinks it's a problem, but it hasn't just been figured out yet. So, we will compensate our staff fairly. They're dedicated in a way that I have not. I mean, that's the whole of my department. These folks are dedicated to what they do, whether it be Shelley or Nancy, John and Dwayne, Gloria, Jim. We're all dedicated to do what we're doing. And no one wants to see us in the position we're in. And to Council President's point, yeah, we have explored every option, but it doesn't mean we can stop now. We can look at other things. We can try other things. We can have additional conversations, Council President. But I want you to know that we have exercised every thought and consideration that we think we have in our baskets, but perhaps there's more. But the reality check is we're already paying a competitive wage for some of these positions, some of these lifeguard positions. We're still not getting the numbers. Other municipalities are paying a same wage, a like wage, or a little bit more. They're still not getting enough candidates. So the issue is not just specific to us. It's very unfortunate. I grew up in Belsuber. Warrington was a pool that we went to. I don't remember a summer when it was closed, but at some point it closed. I probably didn't swim there anymore. And it became a spray park. The reason why Councilperson Strasburger doesn't have a pool in her district, she just has a spray park. So that's why there's 8 pools opening, but there's 9 districts. So yes, we are opening 1 pool per district. We'd like to open them all. And I truly understand the nature, the issue of kids crossing into other neighborhoods. I was one of those kids. I know what that's like. I know all about that. So it's not a position that we want to see. And we're doing everything we can to kind of make the most of this summer and give all that we can, all that the resources allow us to give back to city residents, because we realize that people need recreation, people need education, they need recreation, they need access to services. We're doing what we can.
Oh, thank you, Director, and thank you for everything you do. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you. Other questions from members? So we'll go second round. Council President Smith.
You're muted, Councilwoman.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman. I just want to say, I think we have to sit down and have a meeting like ASAP and figure this out. We're not going to do something as an answer. I'm going to take, we need to open the budget at one time. The reason we have to open it now is because time is of the essence. We have to have people trained, you have to prepare the pools, you have to hire people. So, and kids have to have a place to go when schools close next week, I think it is, for the city schools. So, I mean, for me, this is so important, and I just don't understand. There doesn't seem to be a sense of urgency when it involves kids in the city, and yet when something happens, there's always a sense of we should do more for the kids. We should have this program to stop gang violence. We should have a program to do police community relations. But yet every time we have those opportunities to help, we're not doing those things to prevent. We're not doing the preventive things that we need to do. To me, keeping kids busy in the summer is one of the biggest things we need to be doing, especially right now in the city of Pittsburgh. Violence is up, shootings are up. I mean, homicides are up. Everything is, all this stuff is occurring in the city of Pittsburgh. And yet we don't see a lot of kids. It's my understanding they're not even getting a lot of kids through the Partner for Work program this year, because they're also not paying a lot. And it doesn't pay families and kids to go off to these jobs. So I think this is an issue that we're having across the city and obviously across the county. They're having some challenges, but I think it would be great to have a broader conversation in how the county and city can work together to get the pools open with our private partners, with our universities, with others that want to help see kids busy, learning how to swim and enjoying their summer. I mean, let them enjoy their summer and have some fun. This is the one thing they do that we made it free to kids 14 and under. We did something right there, but now I feel like there's always this effort to close pools, or always an effort to change what we're doing. And to me, this is one step towards that. And I think it's vital that we open the budget and do what we need to do. And Councilwoman Gross, I want to stand with you, and we're going to work together with the director to do this. And Director, I do appreciate all the work you do. I think you are one of the most respected directors here. All of us, I believe, feel the same way about you. So this is not a reflection on you and the job you do, and it's not a reflection on the administration. I think that they have done a lot for youth in the city of Pittsburgh, and they've done a lot for them in my side of town. And so I'm thankful for what they do, but I think that we need to make this a priority and get these pools open for the kids this summer, period. So let's meet, Councilwoman Gross, we'll schedule a meeting and start working with everyone, okay? Immediately, thank you.
Thank you. Any other members, second round? If not, what is your pleasure, Councilwoman Gross? Are you looking to hold this bill?
Well, we were thinking when we came into the meeting that we might have to hold it, but I thought I heard President Smith suggest that we pass it provisionally. We could always recommit if we can't figure it out by Tuesday. Is that preferable to
Whatever
you?
the members want. I'm good with whatever anybody decides. I just don't want us to put it on the back burner and not do it.
It seems
I
to
don't-
me we should pass provisionally then, just in case we get it figured out. And if we don't, we still can buy ourselves another week. But if we hold, we wouldn't be able to pass it finally next week.
My only thought is we may be putting the cart before the horse, because if I've heard our director correctly, we don't know if this is actually the right amount, because as of right now, it's actually not a money problem, it's a people problem. It's finding this actual staff. And so if he were to do all the innovative things that Council President Smith is suggesting and find the additional staff, he may actually come back and say, I need a different amount that could even potentially be higher than what you're suggesting to put on the table.
Actually, well, in my draft amendment, I do have a higher amount in a pot that it could come from. So,
Right. So,
it's really not ready to put on the table. So
my only thought is what I've heard him say is it's not, he doesn't have a money problem right now because he could actually spend more based upon what he has. He has a staffing problem. And so assuming over the next week or 2 or 3 that he can solve the staffing problem, your original amendment may actually be the preferred one because he may need more resources than what we're suggesting now. So my only thought was you may want to hold to let him do his job and then come back to us as a body to
really,
say,
it's not a cash flow problem.
yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not sure because you need, Jim, do you need the authorization? So if you don't mind, I'm just going to ask the director another clarifying
Sure.
question. Thank you. So Director, given the fact that since you are understaffed, there's dollars sitting there in the budget, but are you able to advertise at the higher wage level? I would assume you are not.
Well, that's a kind of a question that would need to be fielded probably by OMB. Maybe to some extent we would have to work with HR. Again, I mean, before yesterday midday and this supplemental money is being made known to me, we were doing our best with what we had while considering aquatics hourly rate adjustments. We didn't feel as though we had the consideration or the latitude to consider it for other seasonal positions, knowing how critical those other positions are too, knowing the kind of the state of affairs respective to part-time hires and interest across the whole spectrum, all program areas and trust funds. We can broaden the lens, so to speak, to see what the need is across other general fund seasonal positions to move those to 1275 or near it or something like that. Haven't done that yet. The microscope's kind of been on the aquatics program and pools and trying to facilitate as many pools opening as possible. Initially, back in January, when we start all of this, we were thinking, okay, let's propose 10, let's propose 12, let's propose 14, those pools based on a monetary deficit, thinking that would be the issue. So we had all of that kind of put together. If we only had X number of dollars, we could open up these pools. Here's the expected cost, just from a personnel program standpoint, not a DPW, facilitation, water, none of those considerations. Mm-hmm. So we went through those iterations really early on, only to recently realize, probably within the last 2 to 4 weeks, that we're just not getting people to sign up for the positions, even the better paying positions. And we're not getting some of the folks that have worked with us every summer to come back. They're just not coming back. COVID, other resources, they need a vacation. They're going to Europe. They're who knows what. They're just not coming back. So the monetary concern kind of was deflected a little bit, you know. So it's not as immediate as a concern as it is just trying to find people to help us and to want to provide the kind of experiences for city residents that the team delivers every summer.
I hear what you're saying, but I still feel like other people are trying to get the interest and the applicants by offering more money. But I keep hearing you say you don't need more money because you're not getting applicants. And so I'm not sure which horse is in front of which cart.
No, we are offering more money. What I'm saying is that we have the ability to offer more money within the aquatics section general fund budget. We don't have money in trust funds necessarily to be able to do that same thing equitably for like positions.
Right. And I think we can definitely work on that math. I'm interested in doing it. I'm trying to wrap up, Mr. Chair, but in 2004, when the city was faced with closing pools across the city, it was citizen fundraising and that raised some $850,000. And those funds were put into the trust funds so that Parks and Rec, this is my kind of doing research on it, right? And so that Parks and Rec had the flexibility of, figuring out how to spend that money to fill positions to reopen pools. And I think we should maybe look back and see what we can find in the archives of how that happened and talk to our city staff who were probably here and lived through it to figure out how that was earlier in the year than we are now. But this has been done before. So there may be some lessons to learn that also are about funding the trust funds for those positions too. So I'll stop there, Mr. Chair. So what shall we do? I'll just go with I think what the general idea is here to hold 1 week. So motion to hold 1 week.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Bill will be held 1 week. Thank you.
Thanks,
Councilman
Director.
Gross and
Thank
Director
you.
Chapman.
Thank you all. Thanks very much.
That takes us to new papers still under finance and law, first being Bill 1548.
Bill 1548, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Office of Management and Budget to execute relevant agreements to receive grant funding from the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection's Alternative Fuel Incentive Grant Program to purchase 8 electric Chevy Bolts and an all-electric bucket truck to be added to the city's fleet, not to exceed $160,000.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Bill 1549.
Bill 1549, resolution further amending resolution number 675 entitled Resolution Adopting and Approving the 2009 Capital Budget and the 2009 CDBG Program and approving the 2009 through 2013 Capital Improvement Program by removing unencumbered funds from projects pending closure pursuant to Chapter 218 of the City Code.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Excuse me. Bill 1550.
Bill 1550, resolution further amending resolution number 855, adopting and approving the 2012 capital budget and the 2012 CDBG program and approving the 2012 through the 2017 capital improvement program by removing unencumbered funds from projects pending closure pursuant to Chapter 218 of the City Code.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Bill is recommended. Bill 1551.
Bill 1551, resolution further amending resolution number 772, adopting and approving the 2013 capital budget and the 2013 CDBG program and approving the 2013 through 2018 capital improvement program by removing unencumbered funds from projects pending closure pursuant to Chapter 218 of the City Code.
Motion to approve.
Second, very brief discussion, please. Mr. Chair, should we read all remaining bills that are removing unencumbered CDBG funds from projects?
Yes, we can, which would include Bill 1551, 52, 53, 54.
Bill 1552, resolution further amending resolution number 772, entitled Adopting and Approving the 2017 Capital Budget and the 2017 CDBG Program approving the 2017 through 2022 capital improvement program by removing unencumbered funds from the project pending closure pursuant to Chapter 218 of the City Code. Bill 1553, resolution further amending resolution number 797, approving and adopting the 2018 capital budget and the 2018 CDBG program and the 2018 through the 2023 capital improvement program by removing unencumbered funds from projects pending closure pursuant to Chapter 218 of the City Code. Bill 1554, resolution further amending resolution number 674, adopting and approving the 2021 capital budget and the 2021 CDBG program and the 2021 through the 2026 capital improvement program by reappropriating funds closed due to the requirements of Chapter 218 of the City Code.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All bills are recommended. Bill 1555.
Bill 1555, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Office of Management and Budget to enter into an agreement with GovList doing business as Procure Now to purchase a subscription service for solicitation, contract, and vendor management services, as well as training for OMB staff at a cost not to exceed $235,000.
Motion to approve.
Yes, second, very brief discussion.
Councilman Craig?
I do believe this assists the Equipment Leasing Authority with listing our used vehicles on GovList for sale, which has been wildly successful, and I would argue would ultimately pay for this amount over time if it hasn't already. Thanks.
This
Is that right? No? Good morning, Director.
Jennifer Rosinger here. Councilman Kraus, that's actually incorrect. Gov Planet and Gov Deals is what we use for reselling equipment. This is actually a replacement of the software behind our beacon system for purchasing. So we were unhappy with the previous software supplier. So our contract was up at the end of this year. So we are transitioning to a new system to power that beacon. So this will handle all of our solicitations, all of our contracts, as well as add vendor management tools so we can track vendor performance and a lot better reporting and functionality that we can report back on the success of our contracts.
I appreciate the correction. Thank you very much. May I just ask one quick question?
Sure.
Being a new contract, what is the life of the contract, please?
This is 5 years.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Perfect. Appreciate your help.
No problem. Yeah, the names are very similar, so I can see why.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Well, next is Bill 1562, and I will need a motion to hold for a public hearing.
Bill 1562, resolution providing for the continued designation of a downtown Pittsburgh business improvement district for the area shown on Exhibit 8 at the behest of the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership, a coalition of property owners, business leaders, retailers, civic organizations, and residents.
Motion to hold for cable cast public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill will be held. Thank you. Now we need a motion to approve the invoices.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Invoices are approved. We now need a motion to approve the P cards.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
P cards are approved. That takes us to Public Safety Services Committee, which is chaired by Councilman O'Connor. First new paper is Bill 1556.
Bill 1556, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of public safety to enter into a data sharing agreement with the RAD Corporation, which shall be at no cost to the city.
Motion to approve, brief discussion.
Second.
For members, we sent over an amendment. It's not only the city that's partnering, it's the county. So I need to make a motion to amend. The amendment was sent to everybody just to add the county to the bill.
Second on the amendment.
Any discussion on the amendment? Quick question, Councilman O'Connor, what data are we sharing?
It's with the RAND Corporation. So I believe it's incorporating everything. And I think it's just a study. I mean, I don't know if there's somebody on, but I can get you the specific data that they're doing. I think this was like a pilot program with funding from all three entities.
Okay, just, you can get, I mean, I don't need it right now.
Okay, that's fine.
Rand-
I'll ask the director to send you the specific data that they're sharing. I may have it in a memo as well. I'll send over.
Okay, Rand does good work. I was just curious.
Hello, this is Lee Schmidt from Public Safety.
There you go. Perfect.
So this is a study that RAND is doing in conjunction with the University of Pittsburgh. And it is based in the city as well as county as a whole. They are trying to do a study to evaluate the disparities of policing within the Black community versus other communities. So they're essentially pulling all of our criminal data. We're working through some of the legal things on that, but they'll get scrubbed information, but they will know gender, race, age, that kind of stuff. And for them to do a comprehensive study about what they're charged with, different crimes, as well as punishments for those crimes. So it's a rather long and in-depth study. We can give you more information on it, but that's the gist of it.
Thank you. Do you have a sense of how long the study will last?
It's at least 2 years, I believe.
Okay. Thank you. Councilwoman Gross?
Thank you. Mr. Schmidt, does the study look at disparities in surveillance and data gathering? So we've seen a number of softwares, cameras, and there's one this past week. And so that is data that could be analyzed. How much our public safety department or police department is gathering information, and is there a disparity among the categories that you listed, gender, race, age, by surveillance?
Not at this point in this study. Right now, they're just looking at criminal reports or police reports, not anything beyond that. So if somebody's a subject of an investigation and they would be being surveilled because of that, then that would likely be in a police report. But overall.
But if they were being surveilled, but not if there was no kind of report number issued, but you do have, footage, camera footage, possibly now we see social media footage on individuals, even if they have not had charges filed against them, or they're not even under investigation. Correct?
Well, we have cameras, but we don't review them unless there's an incident per city code.
Got it. They're stored, the data, if I'm not mistaken, is stored for a year?
No.
Right after
The camera data is only stored for 10 days.
10 days. Thank you for correcting me on that. Okay. So there is data being gathered, body cams, for example, right? But there is also data being gathered, as we know, from other kinds of cameras. For example, the throwbots that have been used in certain situations. Does that 10-day data storage limit apply to other kinds of cameras, street cameras, other surveillance cameras?
The 10 days is specifically for the street cameras and surveillance cameras around the city. The body cams are kept for 30 days.
30 days.
And any of this footage can be flagged if there's an incident, and then it is kept for evidentiary reasons.
So those incidents, after the incident, that's what is going to be in the RAND study?
Yeah, that would normally generate a police report. So then that would be included in the study. I'm not sure if they're looking specifically at surveillance, but more interactions and, like I said, what they're charged with, and how often, that kind of thing.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Strasburger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the risk of making this more complex, I am just trying to, if it's going to take roughly 2 years, and it sounds like it's going to be an incredibly in-depth analysis of our data, I am trying to think about a way that it can be more than just a report on a static report over a period of time that then becomes outdated after, say, a year or two. I'm sure it'll be incredibly informative and will help council and the city craft policies that are or change the way that we do policing to respond to what I suspect we'll find is huge disparities, racial disparities in our policing. However, I wonder if there's an opportunity, since we will be providing so much data to them, to have the part of what comes out in this report be a dashboard that is, that I know that we're working toward it as a city, but if there can be support for crafting a sort of self-updating dashboard that will live on beyond the time that this report comes out, so that we can that public can continue to access this important data over time, even beyond the time that is covered by this report. Is there, from what you know, is there any possibility that this is something that is being discussed by the researchers?
I know within the Bureau it's being discussed that once we have the capability of obtaining this data, that it, whether it's continued by RAND or another organization or just internally, that this data be identified and collected based on the RMS system.
Yeah, and I do know that the Bureau is interested in making this happen, and it seems like we can use all the support from smart people within the Bureau, but also outside as possible. So I didn't want to let this pass without mentioning it. If RAND and the University of Pittsburgh are able to assist in that through the work that they're doing anyway, that seems like a natural partnership. Happy to follow up beyond this, outside of this conversation.
Yeah, we can definitely get more detailed information to everybody on council.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Wilson.
Sorry, I'm on mute. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to ask the question to Mr. Schmidt. How the people who will be doing the study, and then also whoever is sharing the information, how do they take into account diversion or like a co-response that would be happening?
I'm unsure at that specific at this point.
Okay, yeah, I would be interested to see how that type of data is going to be accounted for, since if there aren't charges because there is a diversion or there is a co-response. I'd like to see that accounted for if possible, so that we can get a sense of what that looks like.
Yeah, I know the police bureau is still working on, the diversion programs in its early phases right now. So they're still working on how that gets reported and handled, working with the DA's office and some other folks to get through, because there's some state regulations regarding the data sharing and the diversion that we're still working through. So as we work through that, we should be able to involve the RAND Corporation to see how they can, and University of Pittsburgh to see how they can implement that or add that to this.
Yeah, it would be, I'm just curious, because as we continue to rely on an entity like the AHN Urban Poverty and Homelessness program to do some co-response with the community and also implement community health. I was just curious on. I want to make sure that we're mindful of that data that really probably doesn't exist. So I don't know. It's probably a further conversation to understand that. But if we're looking at charges, it's hard to look at charges that never happened because they found a better solution.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, we are working on that now, how we're going to track diversion and work with AHN and the other partners on all the diversion.
All right, thanks. I just want to bring that up. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you. Any further conversation? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Bill 1557.
Bill 1557, resolution authorizing the city's mayor and director of public safety to enter relevant agreements with Specialized Professional Services, Inc. for hazardous material emergency response equipment and related training services in regard to operation of the city's hazardous material flare response system in an amount not to exceed $54,257.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Bill 1558.
Bill 1558, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of public safety on behalf of the city to enter into a commodities agreement for a 3-year term in Teleflex LLC for the purchase of intrasorcerous needles and related supplies.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill is recommended. That takes us to Public Works Committee chaired by Councilman Coghill. First bill is 1575.
Bill 1575, resolution authorizing the transfer by the city to Allegheny County certain temporary construction easement rights on certain property within the 2nd, 22nd, and 23rd wards of the city in cooperation with Allegheny County Construction Project in and around the Roberto Clemente Bridge.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Bill is recommended. Bill 1543.
Bill 1543, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Department of Public Works to execute relevant agreements to receive grant funding from the Pennsylvania Office of the State Fire Commission to install diesel exhaust apparatus in multiple emergency medical services station, and further providing for an agreement and expenditures not to exceed $8,933.20.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Bill is recommended. That takes us to Land Use and Economic Development Committee chaired by Councilman Wilson. First one deferred paper, Bill 1414.
Bill 1414, ordinance amending and supplementing the Pittsburgh Code Title 9 zoning Article 3 Overlay Zoning District Chapter 907 Development Overlay Districts, removing subsection 90702K for iPod 6 Inclusionary Housing Overlay District and creating 90704A Inclusionary Housing Overlay District.
Motion to approve. Discussion.
Second.
So this was a public hearing the public hearing was held for this. Councilwoman Gross held a public hearing, and this was originally held or extended, and now it's set to expire. I'm in support, and I thought the discussion at the hearing was a well, it was very well attended in terms of especially residents and leaders from the area. So it's good to see so many people involved from the neighborhood, and I'm looking for further discussion in terms of what this looks like, in the future with different, different areas that this could be implemented. And so I'm in support today for making this permanent in this area. Thank you.
Great. Yeah.
Thank you. Any Councilwoman Gross?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councilman Wilson. So this is making our interim planning overlay district into a permanent overlay. We have some 5 or 6 of these permanent overlays around the city. As you'll recall, but just a reminder to the public, when council creates an interim planning overlay district, it has to be in a kind of specific footprint, and it's an extra layer of zoning. This one mandates that developments of 20 units or more have to include 10% of the units at an affordable level that's affordable to someone making half of the area median income, or a family making half of the area median income for families. It's our interim planning overlay districts are allowed to be in place for 18 months only, and then if council extends it for 6 more months, they're allowed to be in place for 24 months, but then they would go away, and that zoning would completely go away. And this one has been a resounding success. It was advocated for, it took years to put in place, being advocated for with community consensus throughout Lawrenceville. Even though we've been in a construction downturn during COVID for a large portion of the 24 months, right? The most recent 14 months of 24 months, projects proceeded without a hiccup, whereas they were halted in other parts of the city. But projects moved forward on schedule in Lawrenceville and are producing affordable units as we speak. I believe the numbers are 35 roughly 35 rental units and 5 for sale. And so this is exactly what Lawrenceville wanted for itself, is that they wanted projects to be built because they had already lost affordable units. And this was a chance to gain them back by having this zoning in place. And so they're very much looking forward to becoming a permanent part of their zoning there as an overlay just for Lawrenceville. And with council support today, I hope this will be a permanent overlay district. I don't want to fail to mention that there were neighborhoods left out that wanted to be included in this pilot. And I have a meeting coming up very soon with Polish Hill, who's very, very keen on having inclusionary zoning. And certainly it's been an ongoing conversation with Bloomfield, who was expressing interest in joining this initial iPod, but it was not to be, and are still very interested in moving forward with inclusionary zoning for themselves. And we are actually undergoing a master planning process with neighborhood planning, part of our new city planning capacities as we speak. So I hope council will support today. It's really been a great project from the people of Lawrenceville.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, I have 2 quick questions, Councilwoman Gross. This is not tied, this is in 20 units or above, regardless of funding, correct? So it doesn't have to have public subsidy attached to it, is that correct?
No, in fact, there's no attachment to any public funding. So these are completely private projects. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my second question is, how was the units of 20 decided upon? And I'm asking because as you go into communities like a Polish Hill, you don't really have space where 20 units are going to be being built in Polish Hill. So I'm just curious of how you got to that number.
Sure. Well, I mean, first know that this was several years of conversation, and that there was a committee of leaders and the planning department and some other kind of real estate attorneys and experts all sitting down trying to figure out what was right for Lawrenceville. So I'm glad you asked that, because I always want to emphasize that part. This really was these levels were right for Lawrenceville and what Lawrenceville was advocating for. And so, as I kind of alluded to, Lawrenceville had lost a lot of units, but those weren't big towers that were taken down like in other parts of the city. It was a accretion, a gradual loss among all of the rental units that were mainly in single family dwellings, as those got flipped, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of houses got flipped back, right? to single family and lost those affordable units. The opportunity that Lawrenceville had were big footprints, like you mentioned, right? And so it had this riverfront and it had developers and the land's already exchanging hands, and it had developers who were interested in building. They knew these multi-units would be coming. It was really important to them to get this zoning in place so that they would gain affordable units as they gained the multi-units. That seemed to destined to come either way, right? And that's what's been borne out. And since Andrew Dash, who's here, is now Director of City Planning and was in every single one of those long year of meetings, I'll let him chime in too. I mean, there were some smaller buildings that I'm thinking of on Butler Street that maybe it was a transmission warehouse and it was a rehab, and it was at a smaller unit level. So it was the 20 unit there seemed to be the sweet spot. But Andrew, Director Dash, is that how you recall it?
Some of that, yes. Andrew Dash, Director, Department of City Planning. Councilman Lavelle, to your question specifically, this all started as you're full aware with the Affordable Housing Task Force and the work there that you co-chaired, where it had identified inclusionary zoning as one of the tools for us to pursue. We then worked with the Grounded Solutions Network further to define potential requirements and places where inclusionary zoning could work in the city of Pittsburgh. That is where that 20 unit threshold came from. It is also where changes to the LRTA occurred, because it was looking at what kind of, how the finances would work, and, that development would still be able to be viable, and that we would also be able to get permanent inclusionary units as a part of those developments. So with the IZO, the Inclusionary Zoning Overlay District, although what we're requesting through this legislation is to have that applied to the 3 Lawrenceville neighborhoods, this is an overlay district that would be able to apply in other neighborhoods, and is based on that prior work. The housing needs assessment that was done in 2016, and the work that we did with Grounded Solutions in 2018 then led to the community process and the meetings with the Lawrenceville community that the councilwoman spoke of, and was a process that we worked then with the Lawrenceville community to develop the interim planning overlay district, which we are through this process making permanent. But then, as now that it's permanent, or if council decides to make it permanent, then obviously can be applied in other neighborhoods through a zoning map change.
Thank you. Thank you. And we'll be having some additional conversations regarding my district and doing something similar. Is there any further conversation? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Congratulations. Our new paper is Bill 1560.
Bill 1560, resolution further amending resolution number 863 of 2018, entitled Resolution Adopting and Approving the 2019 Capital Budget and the 2019 CDBG Program and the 2019 through 2024 Capital Improvement Program, so as to reduce Birmingham Foundation and Save a Life Today Pittsburgh by $8,000 and increase Birmingham Foundation and Brashear Association by $8,000, and authorize a subsequent agreement.
Motion to approve. Any takers?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Any conversation? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Bill is recommended. That takes us to Innovation Performance Asset Management Committee, which is chaired by Councilwoman Strasburger. One new paper, Bill 1559.
Bill 1559, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Department of Innovation and Performance on behalf of the city to enter into a master service agreement with Crown Castle to provide internet connectivity to the city facilities as needed at a monthly utility fee.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill is recommended. That takes us to our last committee, Intergovernmental Affairs Committee, which is chaired by Councilwoman Gross. Our first new paper is Bill 1545.
Bill 1545, resolution adopting plan revision to the City of Pittsburgh's official sewer facilities plan for the CCAC Child Fund Hall renovations, 915 Ridge Avenue.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Bill 1546.
Bill 1546, resolution adopting plan revision to the City of Pittsburgh's official sewer facilities plan for 238, 240, and 242 East Jefferson Street in the 25th Ward.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill is recommended. Bill 1547.
Bill 1547, resolution adopting plan revision to the City of Pittsburgh's official sewer facilities plan for parcel 02L42 at Duquesne University College of Osteopathic Medicine.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill is recommended. That does exhaust our agenda. It appears that Ikuhana Haumaukina has stayed on the line, so I do want to give her a chance to speak if she is still with us before doing our meeting announcements. Are you still with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, wonderful. My apologies for earlier. My title is Ikahana Makina. I am the Grand Inca of the Iroquois Confederacy of Aboriginal American People. And I would like for a fair and just policies to exist. Then we wouldn't need to do such studies in the discharge of the duties of those who are sworn to protect and serve the people already included fair and just application of the following of your own statutes, codes, and policies. People's lives have been permanently changed, altered, and disrupted because of hate that exists within the City of Pittsburgh Police Department. Yesterday, the mayor of the City of Pittsburgh, William Peduto, expressed the 60 years of discourse of land inequitably distributed and underdeveloped. For 60 years, it went on beyond 60 years, to be honest, for 50 years, for 40, 30, 20, 10 years, and continues to happen today. The systemic racism, sexism, classism, and identity suppression has continued to plague the people of the land. To continue these acts as if Indigenous people don't exist is a major issue not being addressed. I find it extremely disrespectful and problematic that issues for Indigenous people are not being addressed at all. It's not even being brought up, not even being discussed, and I find that extremely disrespectful to the Indigenous people, as if we are not here. We are still here, and we are seeking redress. We are seeking restitution. We are seeking our land without being interrupted in the process of doing so, and reclaiming our resources, the environmental injustices that exist. So when we show up as consistently as we have for an entire year or more, how does your conscience allow you to continue? Hear our cries. Hear our voices. Uphold your oath. We are still here. This is our land. And this is a call to action for each of you. Beyond the 9 members of City Council, this is a call to action. Stop your continued political paper genocide of our people. Stop the suppression of the Aboriginal American people. It is a known fact who we are. when you can.
Thank you very much. Now for our meeting announcements. This afternoon at 1:30 p.m., Council will hold a Cablecast post-agenda discussion with the Pittsburgh Public Student Advisory Committee and Government Council. Council will also meet next Tuesday and Wednesday, June 15th and 16th at 10 a.m. for our regular standing committee meetings, respectively. Next Wednesday afternoon at 1 p.m., Council will hold a Cablecast public hearing on Bill 1465 as it relates to the renaming of Allegheny Commons Fountain to the Patricia Reagan Rooney Memorial Fountain. To register for next week's council meetings and public hearings, fill out the sign-up form on the council meeting webpage by 9 a.m. Tuesday and Wednesday for regular and standing committee meetings, and by 11 a.m. Wednesday for the public hearing. You may also register by calling 412-255-2138. Are there any announcements from members?
Mr. Chair, can I register aye votes for the bills I missed? I had to step away for a minute. Thank you.
Duly noted. Anything else from members?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Councilman?
Thank you. I just wanted to note that for anyone who cares about air quality issues, clean air issues, there is a public hearing that's being organized and led by a number of different community advocates from around the city and around the region, starting in about 15 minutes. And there's a Zoom link that people can use to attend this town hall. And I think residents are not only organizing it, are speaking to their own experiences for air. So anyone who's interested, I have the link and send it over to you. Just let me know.
Thank you. Anything else from members? If not, we need a motion to excuse the absent member, approve the minutes, and adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thank you.